We complain that our days are few, yet we act as though they were infinite. We are thrifty with our money, guarded with our property, and defensive of our land, yet we allow the world to trespass upon our time, with a recklessness that borders on insanity. This is the great paradox of the human condition. We treat the most precious, non-renewable resource we possess as if it were a worthless commodity found in abundance. If someone were to steal your wallet, you would call for justice. If someone were to occupy your home, you would fight to reclaim it. But when the world steals your hours, your focus, and your very life, you offer it up with a smile, often without even realizing the theft has occurred. Most people do not truly live. They merely exist in a state of perpetual preparation for a life that never arrives. They are busy being busy, occupied with the trivialities of the crowd, or lost in the fog of a future they assume is guaranteed. But the future is a phantom, and the past is a graveyard. The only reality is the present. Yet it is the one thing we are most desperate to escape. We find the present moment uncomfortable because it is where we are forced to confront ourselves. In the silence of the now, the masks we wear begin to slip, and the shadow we have ignored for so long begins to whisper. Oh, to avoid this encounter, we flee into the arms of distraction. We waste our lives not because we lack time, but because we lack the courage to inhabit it. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher who walked the halls of power in ancient Rome, observed this same tragedy 2,000 years ago. He saw men of great wealth and influence who were, in reality, impoverished because they did not own themselves. He noted that we are surprised when death arrives, as if it were an unexpected guest, when, in truth, we have been walking toward it since the moment of our birth. We live as if we are destined to live forever, rarely considering our own fragility. We postpone our happiness, our growth, and our self-mastery to a distant, later, a time when we imagine we will have more money, more status, or more leisure. But as Seneca warned, while we waste our time hesitating and postponing, life is speeding by. Consider the nature of your typical day. How much of it truly belongs to you? We are often held captive by the expectations of others, by the demands of a career that provides for a body but starves a soul, and by the relentless noise of a society that insists we must always be connected to everything except our own center. This is not just a failure of schedule. It is a failure of sovereignty. When you allow your attention to be fragmented by every notification, every petty grievance, and every social obligation that you fulfill only out of guilt, you are committing a slow and quiet form of suicide. You are giving away pieces of your life to things that do not love you back. The tragedy is not that life is short. The tragedy is that we make it short by squandering it on things that do not matter. We are like a traveler who sets out on a great journey, but spends all his time at the first inn, arguing with the landlord over the price of a room, forgetting entirely the destination he was seeking. We become preoccupied. This was Seneca's term for the people who are always busy, always moving, but never arriving. The preoccupied person is always looking ahead to the next task, the next weekend, or the next year. They are never where their feet are. And because they are never present, they never actually experience their own existence. They are effectively dead, long before their heart stops beating. Why do we do this? Why is it so difficult to simply be? From a psychological perspective, our preoccupation serves as a shield. If we are constantly busy, we do not have to face the existential weight of our own choices. We do not have to ask ourselves if we are living a life of meaning, or if we are merely following a script written by someone else. The busyness of the world is a collective anesthesia. We use it to numb the anxiety of our own mortality and the fear that, beneath our roles and titles, we may find a void. We fear that if we stop running, the shadow will catch us. But the shadow is not something to be feared. It is a part of us that demands integration. By running from it through distraction, we fragment our psyche and lose the very self-mastery we need to be free. We often recognize this pattern of waste in others with ease. We see the friend who complains about their job but does nothing to change it. We see the relative who lives in a state of perpetual outrage over things they cannot control. We see the colleague who chases status at the expense of their health and relationships. But we must turn the mirror toward ourselves. Where are you hiding from your own life? What are the sophisticated ways you use to kill time while pretending to be productive? For some, it is the endless pursuit of information that is never turned into wisdom. For others, it is the obsession with the opinions of people they do not even like. For many, it is the belief that life will truly begin once a certain goal is reached. This is the deferred life plan, and it is one of the most common ways to reach the end of your days with a heart full of regret. True strength is not found in the ability to dominate others or to accumulate vast amounts of wealth. True strength is found in the discipline of the mind and the sovereignty of the soul. It is the ability to say no to the trivial so that you can say yes to the essential. It is the clarity to distinguish between what is within your control and what is not. You cannot control the length of your life, but you can control its depth. You cannot control the actions of the world, but you can control your response to them. This is the essence of the Stoic path. It is a philosophy of action, but more importantly, it is a philosophy of presence. The goal is not to build walls around yourself to keep the world out. That is the reaction of the fearful. The goal is to build a gate, to develop the discernment to know who and what deserves to enter your inner sanctum. Selective trust is not just about people. It is about ideas, emotions, and distractions. You must become a gatekeeper of your own mind. If you allow every wandering thought and every external chaos to occupy your mental space, you will never know peace. You will be a slave to circumstance, a leaf blown about by the winds of fortune. Seneca reminds us that a person who is everywhere is nowhere. When we scatter our energy across 1,000 different directions, we become thin, fragile. We lose our substance. To live deeply, we must learn the art of concentration. This is not just a productivity hack. It is a spiritual necessity. To focus on one thing, to be fully present with one person, to commit to one path of mastery. This is how we reclaim our time from the void. It requires a certain kind of ruthlessness. You must be willing to be disliked by those who want to use your time for their own ends. You must be willing to appear unproductive in the eyes of a society that worships motion over meaning. Many of us suffer from what might be called a savior complex, or a pathological need to be liked, which makes us vulnerable to the demands of the crowd. We tell ourselves we are being helpful, but often we are simply avoiding the difficult work of our own lives by meddling in the lives of others. We use the problems of the world as an excuse to ignore the disorder within our own hearts. But you cannot truly help the world if you are a fragmented, exhausted version of yourself. Your first responsibility is to your own sovereignty. Only from a place of inner steadiness can you offer anything of real value to others. We often find ourselves trapped in the thick of things. As Seneca put it, we are caught in the momentum of our own habits. We wake up, we react to the world, we fulfill our obligations, and we collapse into sleep, only to repeat the cycle the next day. This is living by default. To live by design requires a conscious interruption of this cycle. It requires us to step back and look at our lives from the perspective of our own mortality. This is the practice of memento mori, remembering that you will die. This is not a dark or morbid thought. It is the most liberating realization a human being can have. When you truly understand that your time is limited, the petty grievances, the social anxieties, and the pursuit of trivial status lose their power over you. The fear of what others think of you dissolves. In the face of the ultimate reality, you realize that you do not have the luxury of wasting your life on things that do not nourish your soul. We must ask ourselves, what are we trying to control that cannot be controlled? We try to control our reputation, the future, and the choices of those around us. This is a recipe for perpetual misery. The Stoic response is to withdraw our concern from the external and place it firmly on the internal. You can control your character, your intentions, and your use of the present moment. Everything else is indifferent. By focusing on your own inner order, you become untouchable. The world may take your property. It may take your health. Eventually, it will take your life. But it cannot take your peace unless you hand it over. The common emotional reaction to the passage of time is one of panic or denial. We try to stay young. We try to stay busy. We try to distract ourselves from the ticking of the clock. But the Stoic response is one of calm acceptance. We accept that time is a river that flows in only one direction. Instead of trying to swim against the current, we learn to navigate the waters with skill and grace. We learn to appreciate the beauty of the river without needing to own it. This acceptance is not passive. It is an active, disciplined engagement with reality. It is the realization that while we cannot stop the flow of time, we can decide how we will experience the journey. Think of the person you could become if you stopped leaking your energy into the void. Imagine the clarity you would possess if you were no longer a prisoner of your own impulses and the expectations of the crowd. This version of you already exists within your shadow, waiting to be integrated. It is the part of you that knows your true priorities. It is the part of you that is not afraid of silence or solitude. To reach this state, you must practice voluntary hardship. You must occasionally step away from the comforts that soften your resolve. You must learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. This is how you build the mental muscle, required to stay steady when life becomes difficult. Most people waste their life because they are waiting for permission to live it. They wait for the perfect conditions, the right timing, or the approval of their peers. But the conditions will never be perfect, and the timing will always be uncertain. The only permission you need is your own. You must take command of your life now, not in some imagined future. This requires a shift from a reactive mindset to a proactive one. Instead of asking, "What does the world want from me?" you must ask, "What is the most meaningful use of this hour?" This does not mean you must become a hermit or isolate yourself from the world. On the contrary, when you own your time, you are able to engage with the world more deeply. Your relationships become more meaningful because you are actually present in them. Your work becomes more impactful because it is fueled by purpose, rather than desperation. You move through the world with a quiet authority, not because you seek power over others, but because you have achieved power over yourself. The goal is self-mastery. It is the ability to stand in the center of the storm and remain unmoved. It is the wisdom to know that life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. When Seneca spoke of the shortness of life, he was offering a warning, but also a profound hope. He was telling us that we have enough time. If only we stop throwing it away, we have the capacity for a life of great depth and beauty, provided we have the courage to claim it. As you move forward, keep the image of the gatekeeper in your mind. Every time you are asked for your attention, every time you feel the urge to procrastinate, and every time you find yourself caught in the drama of the world, ask yourself, is this worth a piece of my life? Because that is what you are paying with. You are paying with the only thing you truly own. Learn to be as stingy with your time as the miser is with his gold. Not because you are selfish, but because you are sovereign. The path of the Stoic is not an easy one. It requires constant practice and repetition, and a relentless commitment to the truth. It requires you to look at your own weaknesses without blinking, and to take responsibility for your own state of mind. But the reward is a sense of peace that the world cannot give and cannot take away. It is the feeling of being truly awake in a world that is largely asleep. True strength is not found in intensity, but in steadiness. It is found in the quiet discipline of doing what is right, day after day, regardless of how you feel or what others say. It is found in the ability to face your own mortality with a clear eye and a steady heart. When you reach the end of your days, you do not want to look back and see a life that was lived by others. You want to see a life that was lived by you, a life that was used well, regardless of its length. The world will continue its frantic pace. The noise will not stop. The demands on your attention will only increase. But you can choose to step out of the theater of masks. You can choose to stop being a preoccupied actor in someone else's play. You can choose to be the author of your own story. The time is now, not tomorrow, not when you are ready, but now. Reclaim your focus. Reclaim your sovereignty. Reclaim your life. It is the only one you have, and it is far too precious to be wasted. The goal of this reflection is not to make you feel guilty for the time you have lost, but to make you feel empowered for the time you have left. The past is out of your hands, but the present is entirely yours. Treat it with the reverence it deserves. Understand that every moment is a crossroad, a chance to choose discipline over distraction, clarity over confusion, and life over mere existence. As you close this chapter of your day and return to the world, carry this stillness with you. Do not let the chaos outside disturb the order you are building within. Remember that you are not a victim of your circumstances. or a slave to your impulses. You are a sovereign being with the power to choose your path. Choose the path of mastery. Choose the path of presence. Choose to live when you learn who deserves your energy and who does not. When you learn what is worth your concern and what is merely noise, you become a force of nature. You become the calm at the center of the cyclone. This is the true meaning of wisdom. It is not an academic pursuit, but a way of being in the world. It is the realization that life is as long as it needs to be. For the person who knows how to inhabit it, may you find the strength to be still. May you find the courage to be honest with yourself. And may you find the wisdom to use your time as if it were the sacred gift that it truly is. The world may be a theater of masks, but you no longer have to play a part. You are free to be the observer, the philosopher, and the master of your own soul. Proceed with discernment. Proceed with discipline. Proceed with peace.